Wasn't Palestine already free? And I guess here's the irony: Palestine was free. Absolutely was free. Now, unfortunately, America's left wing, they're not interested in the truth, and neither are a lot of their counterparts around the world. They are more interested in slogans than reality. And I'm going to talk about that on today's show, Insight with Stewart White. Wasn't Palestine already free? And in fact, they absolutely were, and they blew it. So let's talk about it. Look at America. They chanted everywhere, on college campuses, in the streets, even in the halls of Congress, "Free Palestine." Most of them couldn't even identify Palestine on a map, and if they did, they wouldn't look at the history of this non-existent, never existed before country, Palestine. No, didn't, and I'll talk more about that in detail in a lot of different videos, as I think it's important that we dig into the things that really matter. They matter to me. They should matter to you. I know they matter to Israel. They matter to Jewish people, and I'm sure they matter to Muslims and others. But what matters the most is truth. And I believe, first of all, and I'm going to say this very clearly, Israel is on the right side of what is going on currently in the Middle East. So, free Palestine? No, they were already free and they blew it. But free Palestine, it sounds powerful, it sounds righteous, and it tugs at the heart. It's an emotional thing, especially among the ignorant. And I don't mean to be condescending, and I know it comes across that way at times, but let's face it, America especially, though I think it's also true as we get over into Great Britain, we get into England, and we get into the heart of Europe, they live their lives on anecdotes. They have lost the ability to critically think. They get this little soundbite, and if it comes from their side, boom, they're going to run with it. That becomes their truth, their reality. You know, a perfect example is with Charlie Kirk. All the claims that they were making about Charlie Kirk, he's racist, he's a misogynist, he's this, he's that, and they were all lies. Charlie Kirk was none of those horrible things. He was a good man. His problem was, like me, he looked at truth, he looked at facts, exercised speech to get it across, and they killed him for it. And that's tragic. But my point is, we have a lot of people who come to a decision based on anecdotes only. They get fed that. You know, we live in a fast food society now. Our media is fast food, even though ABC, CBS, MSNBC, all a bunch of crap. Though they're slowly starting to come around. But they will present stuff that is agenda-driven, not fact and truth-driven. That's because, for the most part, journalism doesn't exist nowadays. But I'm getting off the point. We're getting back to what the problem is. Free Palestine? But no one ever stops to ask the obvious question, and maybe you haven't asked it either. Wasn't Palestine already free? Yes, Palestine was free. Now, I know that's going to sound shocking to some. It's going to upset some. But history is stubborn. And when you shine a little bit of light on the facts, all of a sudden the chants, the slogans, the protests, they all fall apart like a house of cards, because that's what they're built on. So first, let's define our terms. What exactly is Palestine? Did you know the name was first imposed by the Romans after they crushed the Jewish Bar Kokhba revolt around 135 AD? And they renamed that area Judea, Syria, Palestine, to wipe out Jewish identity. It was a punishment, not a nation. It was a punishment. It was to embarrass Israel. And we'll talk about the phony crap. People will say, well, Palestine was mentioned in some Egyptian hieroglyphics and stuff. No, it's not true. and I'll have data on that. I'll tell you exactly what some of those Egyptian hieroglyphics said. Had nothing to do with Palestine today. So for the next 1,800 years, there was no sovereign Palestinian state. And again, this is following the Roman dominance occupation of Israel and their terrible destruction and anti-Semitism. So for the next 1,800 years, there was no sovereign Palestinian state. They didn't exist. They never existed at all. Period. None. Not. Even the Palestinian people did not exist. Separate subject. We'll talk about it. But the land was ruled by Romans, then the Byzantines, Muslims, the Crusaders, Ottomans, and finally the British. And it wasn't until the 20th century that the term Palestinian became widely applied to Arabs in the region. And most of that came about because certain Arab nations wanted to use pawns to kind of destroy Israel. And sagacious, it was, for those of you who've had public education, sagacious, shrewd. It's very shrewd of the Arab nations to do that, to get the Palestinians, let's focus on them, this non-existent people in this non-existent country. But historically, the word was used for Jews too. Yeah. In fact, the Palestine Post was a Jewish newspaper. Did you know that? Today it's the Jerusalem Post. So when people shout out free Palestine, what exactly are they freeing? Because there never was a state called Palestine to begin with. And just as a side note, and I didn't intend on talking about this today, but the United Nations, that very anti-Semitic organization that you really can't trust as far as you can spit into the wind, very corrupt, they're about to vote on making Palestine a permanent state in that area. Well, United Nations, I got to tell you, you screw up just about everything you touch. And you have an agenda. I got to do something separate on them as well. But let's move forward. Let's talk about the British mandate. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed. It really came to an end in 1922. And the League of Nations gave Britain control of this territory. Well, what a mistake. The mandate was clear. Britain was to prepare the land for a Jewish homeland. And this wasn't my opinion. It's in the mandate itself. Article 2. Britain was responsible for creating the conditions for the Jewish national home. But here's what most people never hear. 77% of the mandate was carved off to create Transjordan, which is today's Jordan. So the Arab population already received the vast majority of the land. Did you know that? And still, Jews accepted a much smaller portion, while Arab leaders rejected the idea outright. They didn't want Jews to exist. They didn't want Israel to exist. And in fact, they wanted to commit genocide against all Jewish people. And they still do today. I mean, you can look at the Hamas charter. Nothing in their charter that calls for improving Palestine. It really is all about let's destroy Jews everywhere, wherever they happen to be, and destroy Israel. Did you know that? Have you taken time to read the Hamas charter? And I'm speaking to people on the left. They don't seem to read anything except little tiny anecdotes that they're spoon-fed by people who aren't concerned about the truth at all. They have an agenda. So let's be blunt. From the river to the sea doesn't mean two states living side by side. It means one Arab state and no Israel at all. You got it? History tells us that. Fast forward to 1947. In 1947, the United Nations offers a partition plan. One Jewish state, one Arab state. Now the Jews, they said yes. The Arabs, they said no. And the very next day, 5 Arab armies invaded Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. And their goal was not peace, it was annihilation, it was absolute genocide. Ooh. Israel survived. Yeah, Israel survived miraculously. But Gaza fell under Egypt, and the West Bank was annexed by Jordan. Now, here's the key that we have to look at. If the Arab leadership truly wanted a Palestinian state, they had their chance. Why didn't they accept it then? They could have declared one in 1948. But they didn't. Not under Jordan. Why? Because the goal was never 2 states. It still isn't. The goal was to destroy one state, the nation of Israel. They wanted to take Israel out, come what may. That has always been the plan. Now, let's talk Gaza. Think about Gaza. Gaza is mentioned in the Bible. For 19 years, from 1948 to 1967, Gaza was controlled by Egypt. Palestinians lived there, but under military rule. You notice the Arabs didn't give them a state. Were there protests for freedom? No. Think about that. No protests for freedom. No protests calling for a Palestinian state. No. Were there calls for the Palestinian state? Absolutely not. Was there international outrage? No, absolutely not. And the world was silent. And why were they silent? Because Israel wasn't in the picture yet. See, if the world really cared about Palestinians and Palestinian independence, we would have seen marches in 1952, hashtags in 1963, outrage in 1965, but there was absolutely nothing because the target wasn't freedom. No. The target, folks, was Israel. That's the part of history that the media never tells you. And all you have to do is a little bit of research, look at the facts, and start to draw conclusions, and you'll see that I'm 100% accurate, absolutely correct, 100% of the time, because after all, that's what Insight with Stewart White is about. I deal with facts and truth, not blatant emotionalism. Now, that doesn't mean that the things that we're talking about, folks, are not emotional. Yeah, I have emotions related to this, but I hold those emotions back first because I want to think and examine the facts and think logically. Because if I rely on emotions, well, then I just become a member of those following the left who march on college campuses, though a lot of them are being paid by George Soros and other groups to do some of the things that they're doing. But yet they present things to you emotionally. And while that might work well, I suppose, in some situations, like if your child's playing in the street, you see a car and your emotions jump in, I got to save that kid. Well, that's also logical. You want to do that. But the media is never going to tell you the truth. So let's go to 1967. You see, now in 1967, that's not that long ago, Egypt blockaded Israel's shipping lanes. Yeah. They blockaded the Tiran Straits. Syria shelled from the Golan Heights and Jordan mass troops back in 1967. Again, not to present a Palestinian state. What was their goal in 1967? Destroy Israel, kill all the Jews. That is a fact. But, and I only laugh because I know how 67, that 6-day war, turned out. You see, Israel struck back. And not just 6 days. No, Israel struck back. And what you're going to hear when you get the Arabs responding, you're going to find out Israel attacked Egypt first. While there's a technical truth to that, folks, that is a bit of misinformation because Egypt had gone on the broadcast saying what they were going to do. They were going to attack. They were getting prepared. And what did Israel do? They were highly intelligent about it. They struck back first, which they needed to do to avoid being annihilated. So, and in just 6 days, against all these Arab countries, in 6 days, Israel captured Gaza. They captured the West Bank. They captured East Jerusalem, which should have belonged to them all along. They captured the Golan Heights, which should have belonged to them all along, and the Sinai Peninsula. Now, let's pause. Did the Arabs, and ask yourself this question honestly, would you? Did the Arabs finally say, okay, let's make peace, let's create a Palestinian state in these territories, leave the Jewish people alone, recognize their homeland, and we'll let Palestine be free, this fake country, we'll let them be free. Did they say that? No. No, they didn't. Instead, the Arab League met in Khartoum and they declared the infamous three no's. Now, here they are, the infamous three no's from the Arab states. No peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, and no negotiations with Israel. No, instead, we'll kidnap their hostages and slaughter a bunch of them and do horrible, horrible things. Of course, that came much, much later in 2023, though they'd been doing a little of that all along. But you got it, the three no's. Three no's. No Israel, no negotiations. They just didn't want Israel to exist. So if you're not going to recognize Israel, you're not going to have peace with Israel, you're not going to negotiate with Israel, well, once again, your chance for a Palestinian state, it was rejected. Instead, leaders chose more conflict. And nowadays, there's a lot of money to be made from that conflict for these Arab nations. So let's put this all together. If we can, if you're still tuned in, and I hope you are, there never, ever, ever was a sovereign state called Palestine. You hear me? And I'll say that again. There never, ever, 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 notice the use of the word ever and never. Put them together, and there never, ever was a sovereign state called Palestine. Never. The land was under Ottoman, then British control, and the Jews accepted partition. The Arabs rejected it. Once again, they want from the river to the sea, we're going to eliminate Israel completely, kill every Jew on the planet. That was their goal. Don't believe me? It's in the Hamas charter. Look, and I know we're going forward, but look at it. Egypt controlled Gaza for 19 years, folks. Jordan controlled the West Bank, but no Palestinian state was created. Egypt, Jordan, they had it, could have created a Palestinian state, but they didn't. They were more interested in genocide, the real genocide that they have been committed, the atrocities against the Jews. And just as a side note, this is a little bit off topic, folks, but you're often going to hear people, ignorant people, and I say that because they use words improperly, all sorts of them. You're going to hear them say, Israel's committing genocide. Israel's committing genocide. It's a bald-faced lie. Who are they committing genocide against? First of all, they're not attempting to kill civilians. Another story, we'll get into that. But genocide against Arabs? Because there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. Now, they may live in what is called Palestine now, but they're still Arabs. So is Israel trying to kill all Arabs? Are they trying to commit genocide against all Arabs? No. Not at all. Israel is simply responding as they should. They're trying to protect their citizens. They're trying to protect their country. And it's not just because of October 7th, 2023. Now, granted, that plays a big part in contemporary terms, but Israel has been repeatedly attacked over the years, infiltrated, their people kidnapped, their women raped, their women and children and men slaughtered, bus bombs, and all sorts of things. So again, Egypt controlled Gaza for 19 years. Jordan controlled the West Bank, but no Palestinian state was created. You got it? After 1967, the chance was still there. Palestine could have existed. Instead, Arab leaders said no peace, no negotiation, no recognition. Well, so when people chant free Palestine, you need to stop and go, excuse me, Palestine already was free. And remember, these demonstrators are there trying to destroy Israel once again, most of them. And I'm just going to say this, and I got attacked for saying this on TikTok, that a lot of these young college students, even though we found out a lot of these college students aren't college students at all, they're paid protesters, they want to eliminate Israel, and they're being paid for it. They're being paid for it. But when they say free Palestine, here's what they really mean. And you need to get this down. What they really mean is erase Israel. Don't believe me? Go look at some of the maps in that area. They've taken Israel out of even the maps in Israel. They hate Jews so much. And folks, that's not freedom. That's fascism. Another word that the left uses improperly. They don't even know what the hell it means. Fascism. And I've got a whole video series coming out on fascism. I've touched on it, but I'm going to go through all the pillars of fascism, and you're going to find out that the true fascists today are the left. The Democratic Party, the majority of the DNC, I don't mean all Democrats at all, but the Democrats in Congress, and I'm not just talking about Elon Omar and AOC, and, they're obviously bigots and have the intelligence of a squid. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't get personal there, but it's hard when I think about AOC and Elon Omar and, the others. But it's not fascism, meaning us. It's fascism, meaning them. And look at my videos as I go through the pillars of fascism. But so anyway, getting back to this, the next time you hear the Free Palestine, ask this simple question. And they'll lie to you, but ask this question. Wasn't Palestine already free? Now be polite when you answer it or ask it. And maybe if you're going to show up at one of those protests, you might do it with armed security because a lot of these people will attack you. But next time you hear Free Palestine, ask the question. Good words, big, bold signs. In fact, I wouldn't mind doing a Wasn't Palestine Already Free tour, kind of like Charlie Kirk's empowerment tour, though I've already receiving death threats off of TikTok, and I mean sending me death threats. We're going to find you, we're going to hunt you down, we're going to kill you. Let them try. But anyway, next time you hear it, the answer is yes, Palestine already was free. And the slogan that they pour out is fraud. You see, as I mentioned toward the beginning of this video, the left, the certain groups in the Middle East, they're not interested in truth, but they're interested in slogans. Why? Because slogans they're emotional word pictures. They're designed to create emotion. So while you'll have outfits like CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, and a lot of the absolutely fake, untruthful, left-wing mainstream media. Journalism's dead, folks. They're not going to show you the videos of Hamas coming in and raping women repeatedly. One woman, I think, was raped over 40 times in one day, crushing her hips. Babies were murdered, and actually, I don't know how much, even on YouTube or Rumble, that I can get into the atrocities. They'll ignore that. They will absolutely ignore that. Instead, they're going to focus on creating emotional word pictures by Free Palestine. And they'll come up with a bunch of lies to support that. But don't fall for it, because Palestine already was free and they blew it. And you might say, well, how did they blow it? Well, Israel gave up Gaza and that land that we're calling Palestine back in 2005. They gave it to them. And not only did they turn it over to the fake Palestinian people, they're Arabs, let's call them what they are. Got to define the terms. They pulled out all of their settlements. Israel even moved their cemeteries and stuff, their synagogues, totally got them out, which I guess is important, because if you go to Gaza, there are signs up there basically warning you that if you're a Jew and you come in here, you're going to be killed, most likely. But they're tolerant. Yeah, right. Anyway, the slogan is a fraud. Free Palestine is an absolute fraud. And I'll tell you, on this channel, on Insight with Stewart White, brick by brick, I'm building a monument to truth. You see, truth is important. And if you really want truth, you need to subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to go into great detail. I'm a history buff. I've got a lot of TikTok videos out that go through history, factual history. And, I've had a lot of attacks because of it, which I really enjoy, actually. I've been attacked. I've been threatened with death and all sorts of things. But they have not really been able to combat one single fact. Instead, they'll attack emotionally and they'll make false claims. But you know something? They are entitled to their own opinions. They absolutely are, but they're not entitled to their own facts. And on this channel, I'm going to consistently deal with facts and truth. And the truth is, Israel has the right to exist. Leave them alone. Let them do what they have been doing. And they've been trying to live peacefully. And I'll tell you quite honestly, the entire world has been blessed by Israel and the Jewish people. Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying that Arabs have not made any contribution. Entirely separate topic. But Israel has done a tremendous amount. And the attacks against them are satanically inspired. That's the only way, in my mind, I can grasp anti-Semitism. That's the only way. That's the only way I can understand the anti-Semitism of the United Nations, the anti-Semitism that we're seeing in the left, that Joe Biden allowed to flourish, that the Democrats in Congress encouraged, allowed to flourish. The only way I can frame that is, wait, if I'm Satan, I'm going to do exactly what I did from the very beginning. I'm going to try to genocide the Jewish people. He's tried it before. He's failed repeatedly. Because I tell you, God is on Israel's side. And you might find that as a weak argument itself. But you're going to have to explain to me the miracles that we'll be talking about in future episodes. So the bottom line, sum it all up, there never was a Palestine. There never was a Palestinian people. That doesn't mean people, Arabs, do not exist and live in Palestine. But there never was a Palestinian state. It didn't show up in the Egyptian hieroglyphics. There is Palesta that is mentioned, but it had nothing to do with Palestine. It talked about an entirely different people, warlike people, and they might be similar. But people like the Philistines, which are not related to the Palestinians in any way, the Philistines were a sea-growing type people. They were from Cyprus, and they were also from parts of Europe. Nothing to do with the Palestinians today at all. And that's another topic. But that is mentioned in some of the Egyptian writings or documents. Let's call them what they are, hieroglyphics. But it's a lie to associate that with modern-day Palestine. So here's what I would like you to do. I obviously want you to subscribe to this channel if you're on YouTube, or follow this channel if you happen to be on Rumble, share it. But what I think you should also do is comment, challenge me. And, getting back to Charlie Kirk, that's all he asked people to do. Challenge me, prove me wrong. Well, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. All right? Free Palestine. Palestine already was free. Thanks for joining me on Insight with Stewart White. I'm going to have a lot more great content coming up. And if you want me to cover something specifically, well, send me a private message, leave me a note, whatever it may be, and we'll do it. All right? God bless and good day.